When all three of you gave us the numbers for the calls, in all three cases, was that 2011?
Yes.
Calendar year?
Calendar year.
Okay.
Because of the economics, is there ever any thought to not call Providence, but to call maybe other cities that you have a better reciprocating relationship with?
I think the rule of thumb, if I may, being involved in the public, is try to call the closest available piece of apparatus or rescue. I think that's it. I mean,
And the chief will explain how the mutual aid.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so too, but...
Yeah, I mean, as the mayor's explained earlier, this is squarely just for EMS purposes only. There's a system set up for suppression, for the suppression side of this. There's a call down, so no city is completely drawn of all their resources. So there's a mutual aid system set up on the suppression side. Obviously, not so much on the EMS side, as we can see. So the suppression side, if we have a fire, we'll call North Providence for an engine, or Metro Control, that's who they use. They'll dial down, take an engine from this community, a ladder from that, so nobody's depleted of the resources. The EMS side is totally different, and that's where the issue is. It has really nothing to do with the suppression side of this at all.
Okay, well, thanks. That makes sense.
Johnston responds to a number of accidents every year on 295, Hartford Ave, George Waterman, Putnam Pike, all state-owned roads. Would you ever consider seeking reimbursement?
No, we're responsible for that because those roads are in our community. So that wouldn't give me talking about sending the
From the
state.
state.
No, because that's our responsibility. And the people, there are people, obviously residents that live on George Waterman Road and Killing Street, and that's what they pay their taxes for. They pay their taxes, obviously, beside for our schools, but for police, fire protection, and EMS protection. They're more likely to use a rescue than to use a fire truck to come to their house. And I don't want to downplay the fire trucks because obviously our rescues are busier than our fire calls. So, no, we have an obligation. We have a moral obligation. We have an obligation as them being taxpayers to ensure that when they call for a rescue, whether they live on Killing Street, Hartford Avenue, that rescue is going to be there and be there within a reasonable amount of time.
But a number of those motorists would be just passing through Johnston. I know there's no way to determine that,
That's
but...
a very good question. If they're not residents, then what happens is their insurance company is billed. And if they don't pay, then that's something that we obviously kind of look at and we'll decide what we're going to do. We bill them personally, but this is an issue where we're constantly going to Providence. And many times, as I said, it's costing me money for overtime because a lot of times it's during the shift change, and I have to pay two firemen time and a half for them by the time they get back because they're not going to rush a call because the shift is changing. They take their time, they do their diligence, and you know, I've had my battles with the fire department, there's no doubt about it, but I got to tell you, I trust those men and women with my life. They do a fantastic job, they really do. So when they get to the call, they're not going to take this, hurry up, so we got to get back, because you know, they take their time. They have to make sure that the patient's stable. They have to make sure when they go into the emergency room that the patient's triaged, that the nurse or doctor takes over. They have to restock the rescue with the supplies that they use.
For the $500 fee, what exactly are the qualifications, whereas you would be reimbursed for some things, but you'd be doing the $500 fee for other things? What are the differences?
I don't quite understand your question. The $500 is a flat fee. Normally, as I said, what we bill is we bill for basic life support $1,060 and for advanced life support $1,278. So we're not being paid at all for either one of the calls in some instances. So I'm saying, well, listen, Providence, you know, seeing we're coming in doing the calls for you, can you pick up the tab, so to speak, of just a flat fee of $500? Any other questions?
Could you institute a system similar to what you were explaining with fire suppression for EMS services?
For fire suppression?
Yeah, for EMS, similar to what you do for fire suppression.
I think the EMS business is a little bit, it's a lot busier. So to not deplete the suppression side is pretty easy because there's so many engines, there's so many ladders in each city and town. They have 2 rescues, we have 3. You know, if North Providence is out, if their 2 rescues are busy, they'll call us, or if ours are, you know, so it's kind of more of a call down. I don't know if the same system would work.
it's more of a mutual. I think, if I may, Chief, the rescue service with the surrounding, the other, if I could say, surrounding communities is a little more justified, and it's mutual. Because if I come to Johnston, I think we may have come to Johnston 30 calls last year. They may have come to us 40. We may have gone to Lincoln last year 40. They may have come to us 35, so the numbers are very, very close. So that, is mutual, but, when as I stated, you're responding 553 calls and you're receiving 40. Now, as far as the fire suppression side of it, you have to keep in mind, when you call for a rescue truck, that's more of an immediate need for service. If we're calling Johnston for a piece of fire apparatus, or Providence, 99% of the time, we're there. We have, 3 engine companies, a ladder company working at this fire already. But when they call for a rescue truck, that's the only one coming at that time. So I think the call for service is more immediate, if I may.
When they respond, when Providence comes here, the 4 times that they did, they relocate to our fire stations. Once in a while they go to the call, but no, they relocate to our fire station to cover the area where those trucks are at. Our firemen are fighting fire. Any other questions?
I guess I just don't know where Providence is going to get this money, this $500.
Well,
I mean, they're
that's up to them.
battling bankruptcy right now. I know you guys are in tough positions as well. It's like, I understand why you're asking for it, but I just don't know where it's coming from.
I think that there's they need to try to work this out with their fire union. They need to try to work this out with their fire union, because there's a way to square this away, with just a little cooperation.
But once again, that's not to be rude, but that's not our problem. Our problem is,
That's a question for them.
that's a good question.
It is.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I'm sure you've been asking that question.
It
But,
just seems far-fetched almost to ask
well,
if it's
but we can no longer.
And I understand why you're asking for it as well.
We can't do it anymore. If it was 15 years ago when everybody was rolling in money, nobody paid attention. But now, as I said, the previous governor, I believe he decimated the cities and towns security by cutting millions and millions of dollars in state aid. I mean, these provinces used to get 9.7, now you get 700,000. They took away 9 million. We lost 8 million. So my point is, maybe if we didn't lose all of that aid, we wouldn't be here today. But however, we're scraping dollars. I mean, I'm looking at saving 15,000 here, 5,000 here, 3,000 here. Saying, okay, good, I just scraped up $60,000. We can put this here, or we can put it in this budget, or we can buy a backhoe that we need, because I was down DPW today, and our backhoe needs extensive work. So my point is, we're looking at scraping money. I can't, myself, and I'm sure if you interview the taxpayers, we can no longer subsidize the city of Providence. I can't afford it anymore.
See, to satisfy.
But can I just say, if